All right, you can go ahead and get started. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Laura, and I just wanted to ask you some questions. Since it's kind of like a panel asking about like some of your experience. Since you both, I've been told that you both work for the San Francisco County in the area of cybersecurity, and I just wanted to get a little bit from both of you on, like what that entails and what you might do on the job, and kind of like open up.
Sure. My name is Dustin Tranberg. I work for the City and County of San Francisco's Office of Cybersecurity. My role is in identity and access management. And so those are the areas that I'm keyed in on. Nate, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Nathan Sinclair. I also work for the City and County of San Francisco, part of the Office of Cybersecurity, and I manage the cyber defense operations team for the City and County. So my team is primarily responsible for internal and external threats that's to the City and County and also to our 60 plus client departments.
That sounds great. Thank you for that. So like, what does a typical day in the life look like? Like what sort of job responsibilities might, you be expected to do in a typical day?
So I'll jump in. So for my team, it depends on what's going on for the day. Since my team consists of 3 teams in one, so I have a defense side of my team who deals with the threats, and they deal with our endpoint that we use for vulnerability, for visibility across the environment. Then I have a data side of my team that is responsible for collecting data sources from all of our clients, including IOCs that we get from our partners. And then I have an operations team that's responsible for all our gear. So throughout the day, it really depends on what's going on. So if there's an incident happening, the defense and data teams and operations teams together collaboratively are working together, making sure that everything's in tip-top shape to kind of build the investigative timelines, and pulling together any artifacts that we need, for the investigation. And that's just during a normal day of, if something's going on. If it's just I don't want to say a chill day, but if it's a day that we're just doing day-to-day operational stuff, they're working on projects. They're working on trying to enhance what we have already and looking at where we can be a little bit more efficient, or where we can, bring in different things that we don't currently have to increase our visibility for protection of the city.
And for me, it's a little less tactical, since I'm not involved in sort of immediate response so much. So my days are typically a balance between daily activities, sort of responses to individual requests for access or identity issues that kind of filter up to my team's level, and project work, which would be strengthening the security of various identity systems, and improving tool sets, and doing education for the various department IT staff that we help with their needs.
Cool, that all sounds very interesting. And I guess that a bit kind of leads me to my next question, which is, what do you like best about working for in the public sector? Like, since you've gone to like your job responsibilities, like what's your favorite thing about it?
The favorite thing I like about my job is it's never boring. There's always something going on. The other part is knowing that I guess that my job actually helps our departments deliver the services for our communities in the city. My background, not just starting in security, but I used to work for a school district for over 10 years. And so having a direct connection to helping the teachers teach the children and so forth to kind of have a job now that connects that back to like the communities and knowing that your job has an impact in how our departments deliver those services to our clients, who essentially is the people who live in the city. That's what makes my job fun for me. And it's never, like I said, it's never boring. It's always something changing.
And for me, I think there's a couple of things. One is just the scale. You know, we have just internally in the city, we have 5 digits of users, which is a couple orders of magnitude bigger than the number of internal users I had at my last job. So that makes it very, very interesting. You get different kinds of problems because of that. And 2 is kind of the service angle of it. I grew up, my dad was a firefighter in San Jose and my mom was a probation officer. And so being able to kind of come in and actually, be of some service to a municipality and a county is actually kind of fulfilling in a way that I actually didn't quite expect coming into the job, but I'm really enjoying that part of it, that, you're helping emergency services, you're helping, people who need help. So it's pretty great.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear you guys talk about like the service the service part of it and like how you serve your communities. And like I'm really interested in like, did that inform your decision to work in the public sector? Like, is there a reason that you chose to work for San Francisco County rather than like maybe a private company?
For me, so I'm born and raised in Oakland in the Bay Area. And so my first job was working for the school district as an intern. So I got introduced to kind of tech and before cyber was even a real term in the industry as it is now. And so I think because I kind of had that intro into being an intern and then starting my career with the school district, I've been a public servant since I've started. And so moving to San Francisco wasn't really a hard choice because I was able to still kind of be a public servant. I think one of the hardest parts was trying to really link my job duties to a person, because when I was at a school district, I knew that my had effect on children and teachers and, how schools deliver education to kids. And so when I came to the city, it was a disconnect for me because I wasn't directly impacting, which I didn't know until now. I wasn't directly impacting, the people like I thought I was. And so for me, it was just, I never really had that notion to go outside of public service because, for me, it was just, that's where I came from. So I really didn't want to look outside. It's more entertaining for me inside of being a public servant and giving back to the community.
And I'll say that it definitely did factor into choosing to move into the city and county of San Francisco. It's, I thought it would be different, and it has been.
That's really nice to hear.
I was wondering if you could elaborate on some of the things you didn't expect going into the role that like maybe was more or less or different than what you signed up for, like kind of elaborating on those differences between like your work for the city and the county of San Francisco and like how your previous jobs have how skills from your previous jobs can be applied to the role you're working in now.
So one thing that's been great about my current job is I'm able to be quite a bit more focused. My previous role was kind of all over the place. I had to have a 1 foot in change control and 1 foot in compliance and 1 foot in running the ticketing system for the software developers. And with this role at the city, I'm able to be much more focused on the systems that I like working with the best. So that's kind of more satisfying to be able to dive deeper into a particular technical area, but also have my previous experience allow me to interoperate with other parts of the Department of Technology and of the city, just because I had that kind of broader background.
I'm gonna kind of echo some things that Dustin said. Coming from Oakland, starting off as a computer tech, you kind of build your core foundation of how to troubleshoot. And so being able to have that core and bring it over to my current role now, you'll be surprised how much you go back to that core of troubleshooting or just being able to dissect the situation. All comes back to that. So for me, a lot of changes for me is just being able to manage the magnitude of the departments that we have, then being able to manage the people, the resources I have on the team, and then kind of understanding strategically where to put us in the next year or 2 years, looking at the overall environment that we have to maintain. It's definitely a challenge. It's something that I actually had no idea that I'll be able to handle, as I went through my career. And I think that just comes from, interactions with the different people I have. Like me and Dustin, we haven't said it yet, but we work actually really close. Even though Dustin doesn't directly have, he doesn't do what we do, a lot of things on his side of the house when he's doing, the identity stuff, when he makes those cool little queries and he's looking at, users that shouldn't be logging in, we're actually looking at what he's making and pulling that into our system to start monitoring, so, having the extra, resources or the extra person on the other side to kind of share their experiences helps me to kind of continue to keep pushing myself and, going the right direction.
Very interesting. I was also wondering how the field has changed from when you entered the field of cybersecurity, and how advancements in the technology or new innovations have kind of shaped or redefined what you do every day, or what type of issues you do.
So for me, like I said, starting, going back 15 years ago, security was not a big deal, honestly. When I was back working for Oakland, security wasn't even really a topic. It was more or less, okay, you need to have your systems patched, and that's kind of it. And so now we fast forward till now, and it's now cyber is the way the businesses are driven to make decisions. Before, in the past, it was, maybe your network team, or maybe, what kind of systems you had drove you to, to make certain decisions. But now there's been tons of changes on, even the skill sets that you need now to be in the industry. So one of the areas, for my team, we spec'd out a resource that we wanted. We kind of built our dream person we want, and that was a programmer. Surprisingly not just focused on cyber, but someone that actually had a programming background. And the reason why is because a lot of the tools now use APIs, and the integrations, you need to have someone that understands a certain code language in order to have those systems talk, or in order to get the information out of the systems to put into another system for you to even make a correlation, so you can do, orchestration, or to build your own data models behind that stuff. So 15 years ago, that wasn't thought of. And now that's kind of the core of a lot of these things that's happening to us now.
Yeah, I think that, security is always going to be a moving target. When I started, if your business had a firewall and you were requiring kind of 8-character passwords, you were ahead of the curve. And now you have things like MFA fatigue attacks, where someone's just hammering your MFA. What's MFA? You're hammering their MFA until they give in and just press OK to allow the bad actor into a system. And you have to think about the changing threat landscape and how you're going to make decisions to best protect your users with the always limited resources that you have.
I guess building off that, do you have any insight on what you think the future of cybersecurity or the field in general might hold? Or what are some new threats or new innovations that you think could radically shape the future of the field?
I think some of the things that's actually already happening is the use of AI models, or artificial intelligence and machine learning. Those things in a lot of companies and manufacturers that we deal with, we see that's the buzzword, but there are some manufacturers that actually have kind of figured it out, and that's going to change the way it is, because you're kind of taking the load off of a human being. Not saying you're going to get rid of humans, but you're taking the load off of a person having to sit at a screen and stare at a screen to try to figure out everything that's going on behind the data. And that's one of the challenges, because there is so much data that's available, and there's so much data that the systems today generate that a person can't really keep up. And so what's changing it now is having, artificial intelligence and, machine learning. And we've seen it to where, we're starting to kind of go into that direction ourselves when we, pull in the data from these different systems that we have to kind of just narrow it down to the most, maybe the top 50 things that we need to look at versus the top 1,000. And you'd be surprised that 1,000 will keep us busy from now until the end of the year versus the 50 we can get done maybe in a couple of weeks or maybe that day, to be honest, because we're able to utilize that technology now.
Yeah, and I don't think we've seen we're barely seeing the beginning, I think, of where machine learning is changing cybersecurity. It's I think it's going to be difficult to even predict where this might be 10 years from now. We could see a very different threat landscape. Script kiddies powered by ChatGPT. It could get pretty lively. But I'll say, in addition, that we're seeing the kind of fragmentation of where users are coming from and what resources are getting at. So we have more and more services going into clouds of various kinds, and people are expecting to connect to these from wherever they're at, from their mobile devices. And so you need to use something like zero trust architecture. I'm not a fan of the name for that, but the ideas behind it are sound, I think. So you have to change your protection paradigm to account for the new kind of network connectivity modes that everyone's expecting to use.
Hi, just had a quick question. I was wondering if you could talk about, so earlier you mentioned about this kind of type of multi-factor fatigue. I'm curious if you could talk a little bit more about these sort of typical problems you guys are solving. How does your day-to-day sort of look with the problems you're trying to solve? Like, how do you tackle, like, first of all, what problems are you guys currently working on? So seeing who comes to you with these problems from your department, and can you explain a little bit about how you guys tackle and design the usage of resources to sort of defend against these?
I didn't hear all that very clearly, but I'll answer what I heard, and you can let me know what I missed. So, building systems. So multi-factor authentication at this point is kind of the bare minimum that you need for a lot of access control. And as I said before, this too is a moving target. It used to be that an SMS signal to your phone was pretty darn secure and good enough, and that's starting to slip by the wayside. It's becoming less and less trusted for critical systems, and so it becomes a matter of architecting the authentication systems that you need for various systems and tailoring these for the access level necessary. You can't have every single person in a very, very large organization jumping through 10 security hoops to get their email. But maybe you do put up those 10 hoops for someone to have access to a more critical system. And so you end up building structures, defense in depth, and tailoring the protection for the risk associated with it. I'm pretty convinced I have not really answered your question, so feel free to re-ask what I've missed.
No, that's I'm not sure if someone else.
Hi, just have a quick questions about like the IDs. I see United States doesn't have a lot of like facial recognitions as ID, like we do like on the cell phones right now, when we're trying to log in and they using our facial recognition. But do you see the potential of United States actually become a norm to using this as a workforce, like in especially like in California states?
Well, I can't speak to using facial recognition on a national level. That's not something that really is in my purview at all. I think that we can see something like facial recognition or fingerprint or other kind of biometrics if they're combined with something like a TPM chip where it will salt it so that you can't revoke fingerprints is one of the problems we have here, right? So you don't want to use just a face or just a fingerprint for authentication because you can't revoke it. So you want to have that salted with a particular TPM chip's identity. So I think that in the US, something like facial recognition, I see it as being something people might opt into. But I think that there'll be a lot of resistance to any kind of mandated use, especially at a federal level.
Hi, this is very, very nice that I get to talk to you guys because I'm actually in a very similar position, although in a lot newer position. I was just hired by the city of Los Angeles to be the director of technology for technology innovation for the comptroller department. You guys have a comptroller in your department. But often the problem that I run into is that I'm running into the legacy systems. Obviously, like I go upstairs to the IT department, they're running on-prem, they're doing SVN, they're doing technology from 20, 30 years ago. And I'm wondering, and I'm here on the third floor where I'm in innovation technology, where we're trying to innovate, and then often those two things clash. So I guess my question is, is how do you manage and how do you deal with when combating this legacy, these legacy systems, and how do you manage this legacy? Even the people upstairs don't even know how to manage them themselves. So, and often that's one of the biggest challenges for security in Los Angeles is that the legacy systems are often getting hacked. Or how do you manage those legacy systems?
Well, first of all, congratulations on your new role. That's a really big deal. So congratulations on that. When it comes to legacy systems, it's a lot that we try to do. The first one is we try to see why exactly they're still on the legacy system, and is there a possibility to migrate off of it? But if not, from my standpoint, for our team, we'll try to wrap it in a container of security. So first, we'll try to see if we can, maybe potentially put our agent on it, or if it can't, if an agent can't be installed, we'll try to extract logs from it so we can monitor it. Then we'll go a step further to talk with, that particular department and our network team to put it maybe in an isolation zone to where only specific endpoints talk to it. So we kind of do a layered approach until we can get to a point to where either that system can be retired, if it ever can be retired. And then that becomes one of our, what we call critical assets. And that goes to our critical asset list where it gets a little bit more visibility and more eyes on it all the time, because it's one of those critical systems that we may have, that we have in the environment until it gets retired.
And it's useful too sometimes to step into the shoes of the people who are running these systems, because if I'm running payroll, my job is to make sure that everyone who's supposed to get a check every 2 weeks gets a check every 2 weeks, because they're going to be real mad if I don't do that. And that's going to be always my job number one. And so if, I might need some convincing that I have to care about the cybersecurity thing that I'm being told about. So you have to think about what their day-to-day job number one is, and maybe convince them that if there's innovation that can help protect their job number one or make their job number one easier, that's the way to approach them.
Maybe want to ask more, maybe?
Kind of building off of what the previous question said, so if, for people who like want to get into the field or are not sure where to start, what steps would you recommend, like, kind of give yourself an advantage or setting yourself up for that, the type of career that you guys have?
So there's quite a bit of ways you can go in cyber. So I would there's SANS has some really good classes and entry level classes, honestly, where they have a class that I think they just released not too long ago, but it's a broad overview of kind of like an intro into cybersecurity. And when I say broad overview, it kind of touches every kind of facet in cyber to get you exposed to it, everything from risk management all the way down to operational stuff to policy building. And when you go through that, I guess the philosophy behind that course is to help you decide which direction you want to go. Whether you're a person that loves to write policy and loves writing memos, or to a person that loves to be hands-on, so you'll be more operational, or a person that's a coder that will be used to help write code for, algorithms for machine learning. So, I mean, and there's a lot of different places. Like there's also a website, and I wish I had it off the top of my head. I think it's cyberseek.org. And so they have a site where you can actually look at the different roles, everything from entry level up to being a CISO, to where you can see what's needed to get to that role. You can also see, what certifications are needed and where you should start. I would always say, look at all the free resources that are available to you first, because, don't go pay for something and you're not 100% sure what you want to do. But start with the free resources, because there are a ton of them out here that will kind of set you up so you can get an understanding of where you may feel like you fit and what your passion is. And once you find out what that passion is, that's, listen, follow your heart, follow what you actually want to do. Because there's some roles in cyber that just aren't for everyone. And I'll tell you, for me, I was never the person to want to write the policy and be the risk person. I'm more of I want to be in the middle of all the chaos. That's just how I am. So that's the path that I took.
Yeah, I'll echo. Find the thing that you kind of groove on. If there's if you test a couple of things and you find there's a particular scripting language that you find interesting, or there's a computer architecture that you find interesting, like working with data, start going down those paths and see what scratches your itch, because that will make whatever you end up doing, you'll do that better because you're enjoying it. So, try and find something that you enjoy and follow that way, because there's some aspect of cybersecurity that uses that. I can just about guarantee it if you're, in this lecture listening to this.
Yeah, so that really brings me to a question that I have, which is, given that there are a lot of different areas of cybersecurity and a lot of different niches, like how did you find a love for cybersecurity, and how do you find the particular niche that you enjoy?
Mine came from kind of setting it up from coming from the background I have from Oakland, and then coming over to the city, knowing that I was more of a hands-on person. So when I was in Oakland, being, with the school district, I got a chance to spend a lot of time outside of the office. So I got a chance to go to all the school sites and, do switching and routing and do servers. And so moving over to the security side of the house, a couple of things happened. One, I knew that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to be, sit behind a desk on the phone. That takes a very special person. I've done that role. It takes a very special person to do that. And but then also I had managers that actually recognized the skill set that I had and where I should fit. So at one point, I had a ISO it's here in the city that has already left, but he actually told me, he said, Nathan, you actually thrive in chaos. He says, so I'm going to keep you in the operations side of cyber. And I was like, yes, great. I didn't have to fight for it, because that's exactly where I wanted to be. So sometimes, you may go the direction you want to go, but it also takes other people to actually pay attention to see what your likes are. and position you in the right place for you to be where you need to be. It's not all by, most of the work is with you, but you definitely need someone that's an advocate that recognize your strong suits and your strong points and puts you, with the right group and on the right path.
Yeah, the importance of having someone to mentor you professionally, even if they're not necessarily an expert in your technical area, having someone who can kind of help you with your career path in a general sense is very, very valuable. So I would encourage everyone to find at least a person or two who you can talk to these issues about, who has time to sit and kind of help you figure out where you want to go. For myself, I came into this really straight from kind of standard IT. Many years ago, I was just sort of the IT person at a small company, doing all the firewalls, running all the cable, blah blah blah, and eventually through a series of a couple of other companies, ended up working mostly in Active Directory, which I found pretty fulfilling and interesting, and that's led me to where I am now by kind of diving deeper and deeper into a specialty that I found interesting. So that's one way to find something interesting is to become a general IT person, because even very general IT work today always has a cybersecurity element of some kind. There will be parts that are very relevant, and again, follow down the things that you find fulfilling.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. And like considering that, like, the job seems like Nathan said, can be very chaotic. What are some interesting stories that you have? Anything that you think was like funny or exciting or I suppose chaotic? Yeah, just like stories.
So for me, one story that I think I'll probably stick on is interesting, and it was very chaotic. I think it was trying to set up the team that I have now. So the city in general never had in years past security operations center or more or less a cyber defense team to kind of protect its own crown jewels, right? So it was a very interesting and uphill battle to kind of develop this team and build it. And then the struggle was trying to get, like an endpoint on every single endpoint that we have in our city. And just to put in perspective, we have over 30,000 employees in the city and probably double that in assets. And so to try to get something in the city that would allow us to have visibility across the board was a challenge. And it was challenges on one, getting it deployed and making it work with every single endpoint software you can imagine out here in the environment that you can think of. But then also was also building the trust from the folks in the various departments. People have to trust you before they do something. And so some people I knew very well and some I had no interaction with. So that was a big challenge for me because now I had to go kind of a little bit out of my element. For me, I was an engineer, and then now being put in a role of having to be a manager to have FaceTime with people all the time. I'm like, I really don't want to talk. I just want to do the work. just give me the work to do. But finally, overall, we got it done. And I made a lot of different connections and strengthened some relationships going through the whole process to where now our team is now the trusted team for the city. And it's not so much as a struggle to get things done because of all that hard work we did before to get to now.
So I had a previous job, kind of a fun experience where our SOC approached me and they said that we're seeing some kind of suspicious traffic coming from outside, and can you dig into this a little bit? And I looked at the authentication attempts coming from this particular IP, and I saw that someone was trying logins on our domain, basically domain/accounting, domain/Barbara, domain/Charlie, domain/David. And it was literally an alphabetical list of first names mostly that they were just trying to attempt. And so as the first and only time I've really seen an actual in the wild penetration attempt like that wasn't just bouncing off the outside somewhere. And it turned out that one of our engineers had deliberately left a firewall, had created and left open a firewall port for himself because he found VPNing in at 3 a.m. to do response work was too much trouble for him. So yeah, sometimes your problems can be self-generated as a company. So it was interesting and a little sad all at the same time.
Dustin, you actually made me think of something when you said that. Just another quick one. Just for all you all that when you go out in the world and you get your job and your in the corporations that you're going to go to, remember that your security teams, your cyber teams can see everything on the network. So don't think they can't. And so, I won't give the whole story, but we had situations where people will do things on the network and when you tell them what you can see, like, wait a minute, you guys can actually see that I sent this to YouTube or I uploaded this document or 25 gigs of data up to my own personal thing. Like, yeah, we can see all of that. We won't tell anybody this time, but you need to cut that out.
I mean, those are all very interesting stories. I'm not sure, I don't think I have any more questions. I don't know if anyone in the audience wants to ask anything, because we can chat. If not, thank you both so much for your time. It was really great hearing about your experience and meeting people. And thank you for making a difference at CTF.
Thank you all. Thank you. Pleasure to be here, and thank you for the invitation.
Thanks. It's been an honor.
So with that, I think you are free to go. Once again, thank you so much. Thank you.
On your way out, we'll be giving the raffle tickets. Everyone.
Yeah, all of it like do not off the first year. But then looking for it. Oh yeah, where do we drop off those tickets?
The box at the check-in.
Okay.
Yeah. You heard still having issues, but I managed to. So these mics are pretty fancy. I don't know how to fully use them, but right now it has a directional focus of kind of forward. So.
That'll make it more competitive.
So is the problem with is if